Will Sam and Tory ever set aside their differences?
And who's the real alpha dog between Miguel and Robby?
Who's going to fight in the Sakai Taikai?
And will we finally see Daniel and Johnny settle those decades-old differences?
Red and Red Real Reviews takes it back to the dojo for season 6, part 1 of Cobra Kai on Netflix.
In her face, a mirror of your
I have 2.8% body fat. My body's like a microchip. A grain of sand could destroy it.
Any man who must say, I am the king, is no true king.
Someone will die.
Of fun.
And of murder.
So I told him to mark everything with the international symbol for gender. And,
Let's say I typed your symptoms into the thing up here and it says you could have network connectivity problems.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die.
My body's a microchip.
It's Halloween. That is really, really good timing.
make believe I'm everywhere, giving in the light.
My brain is on fire. I'm dying.
I should have been more specific.
I think it happens over a long period of time, just like piece by piece, you know?
I once forgot to brush my teeth for 5 weeks.
There is no middle ground.
I am the one who knocks.
Oh my God. The microchip has been compromised.
I want you to stand out. I want all of you to be as different as you can possibly be.
Written on the pages is the answer to a never-ending story.
And welcome, episode 20. Wow, we're getting up there.
We're almost ready to have a drink.
Yeah, almost. And we're almost ready to have this next season of our show, which is kind of exciting. We're coming up on a year.
1 year of Red and Red. Yay!
Wow, it's flown. It seems like just a couple months ago we were talking about Hijack or Lincoln Lawyer.
Yeah, maybe someday someone will do a review on us.
Yeah, maybe it'll be Red and Red Real Reviews.
Red and Red Real Reviews.
Yeah, something like that.
Everyone will start sounding like Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Yeah. So I mean, nothing really has changed in a year. We're still the same zany old people with the same zany opinions
that don't age at all because of our fiery complexions.
Yeah, I think I'm aging backwards. I don't know about you. I think you look younger.
Yeah, I do.
And it helps to cover shows like Cobra Kai, right? I mean,
That keep
there's a
us
couple
younger.
Yeah, there's a couple F words thrown in, but it's about like kids in high school, and you have like gnarly music, and so
And it was
it's
based in the 80s, and the original movie was in the 80s, so it makes you feel younger when you're watching it.
Yeah, and with characters like Johnny, he's always kind of behind the times. It makes you feel really cool in comparison to him.
Yeah. I remember when he was trying to, in one of the earlier seasons, he was trying to learn how to use his phone.
Yes.
Or he was trying to learning how to drive Uber or pick up DoorDash or whatever he was trying to do.
Yeah, it was like how to use Facebook, right? Because he wanted to message that chick from his past.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty funny. So we do have some Johnny moments that are pretty hilarious in this season. So this is season 6 of Cobra Kai. I can't believe that, but they're really stringing this one out. So there's going to be 3 parts. We covered the first part, which is just 5 episodes. So I don't know about you, but I'm really glad that Netflix puts these recaps at the beginning of a new season, because I can hardly ever remember what happens. I think it's been at least a year and a half, and I was struggling to remember how it ended. I remembered that there was a conflict with Kreese and Silver at the end, and I'm pretty sure either Silver was hauled off to jail or both of them were hauled off to jail. So that's all I remembered, but honestly, not much else. So, I mean, to be honest, I'm not enthused about this season being split into 3 parts, but at least for me, it was just easy and digestible, and it was really easy to watch, and it just took a couple hours to get lost in that. So how did you feel going into this sixth season with the part 1 of 3?
I'm glad that it built up to where it's leaving off for part 2, because I kind of had similar fuzzy memories of season 5, and it was only last summer, I think, when it came out. So it's not like a Yellowstone situation that's had a lengthy gap, but last season just felt a bit lackluster to me. So, and to me, it kind of felt like maybe maybe last season 5 was like a lull. We had gotten used to the characters' growth. We kind of know what they're all about, and they were kind of like stringing us along because, okay, we did the Daniel Johnny thing, we did the Johnny Kreese thing, we did the Daniel Kreese thing, and then we did the Silver thing, and then they're kind of like stretched out the Silver storyline a little bit too much for one extra season. Maybe that's why season 5 felt a little underwhelming.
Yeah, I feel like we got a little comfortable, didn't we? Or
Yeah.
something. Like, I don't know if we got comfortable with these characters, but what it seems like is that they are setting it up with a lot of conflict that hopefully or keeps everything going in the second and third part. So at the beginning, the opening of the episode 1, you see Carmen with Johnny. They're living with Miguel and Robby as like this one big happy blended family. You know, they're serving a meal with Carmen's mom, like, and they're just one big happy family. And then the next thing you see is Daniel commenting to his wife Amanda how, oh, we're in the clear, we're all in the clear, you know, everything is good now, you know. And so you just have to kind of think and be like, okay, well, if they're painting this as everything is happy, everything is good, is it really though? For how long?
Oh yeah, it was. They were kind of like almost opening the door, opening the eyes of the audience for the audience, like doing them a favor, being like, well, you guys know that it's not gonna be so easy, so let's just kind of set you up like it's gonna be. But at the same, like, that was one of my more funnier quotes I found, that was like, Johnny, and it's funny because Amanda has spent the whole series like, oh, karate's gotta go. You're over this. You gotta let it go. And then all of a sudden, Daniel's like, you hear that? That is the sweet, sweet sound of no more karate wars.
Yeah, that's when he's talking about like this is his swan song or something, right? That's when he has that whole speech about how, oh, well, once we do the tournament, like it's over after that, you know. And then we see Johnny talking and he has plans to, you know, turn this into a franchise or something. So they definitely have opposing views about what the future of Miyagi-Do looks like, or they're combined.
Which is funny because you'd think Amanda at that point would be like, oh my God, I'm almost out of this. Like, and then she goes ahead and to be the supportive wife in that scenario.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, go for it. I'm like, didn't you want him to be done with this like 4 seasons ago?
Yeah, I think she's just trying to be the supportive good wife, but she's cool. I mean, she's not perfect. She's got her flaws, but yeah, so I mean, getting more deep into the conflicts I mentioned. So there's a lot of conflicts and little sub conflicts, micro conflicts in just these 5 episodes. So what did you see kind of being the most important conflicts, you know, in these episodes that are going to and will drive the story forward in the rest of the season?
Well, especially with the way this part of the season left off, it's hard to imagine that Johnny and Daniel's differences for over 40 years and throughout this kind of remake of sorts series, that they're ever gonna find some kind of resolution. And to your previous point, you would think that it would be the easy way to kind of quote unquote part ways, where Daniel says, okay, here's my swan song, that's it, we won, we got the belt, I'm done with this, I can move on with my life. And then Johnny will have some purpose, taking over the dojo and fully embrace Miyagi-Do and that sort of thing, and he will have something now to do with his life, as opposed to just bouncing along job to job, not really having a purpose or always wondering what he's all about. But the way it ends, like, it almost would be fitting being that this is a rivalry brewed from the very first Karate Kid movie, that it would almost seem appropriate that they just don't resolve their differences because there was too much hostility built from that initial fight when they were teenagers, that they will never come together and kind of be friends.
Right. I mean, it's always a fight for control with them. And like, of course, it began as a physical fight, but now it's a metaphorical fight of power and control. And Daniel has the dealership, but it seems like he's just, he could be busy with that. He could say, I'm getting away from this karate stuff after this, and I'm focusing on my dealership and my family, but it doesn't seem like he wants to relinquish control. He's just kind of a control freak, frankly. Yeah. So, I mean, you almost kind of wonder, like, are they just two different individuals where, like, even though they can get along and even though they can see past their differences, like maybe they're just too different. Maybe that's just the problem. Maybe it's never going to be resolved.
They're both so alpha.
Yeah.
That it might just be as simple as the kind of too many cooks in the kitchen relationship. Yeah. Like you have these two very I don't want to necessarily say aggressive, but very like strong-willed personalities.
Yeah.
And that those don't necessarily work together with each other.
Yeah. And speaking of, alpha personalities or aggressive personalities, there is a little bit of animosity or weirdness, even though they do get along, between Robby and Miguel this season. Did you pick up on that with, them having to, in the beginning of the season, we see them where they're trying to kind of band together to patch up Tory and Sam's differences so that they're friends. But then when it's said that they're going to have to fight against each other for the tournament to determine who's like the male captain of the team, then it kind of makes it weird. And when they fight, they say there's no hard feelings, right? But it's like you almost kind of get a sense of like, okay, well, no matter who wins, there's obviously going to be some bitterness, even if it's underlying, just because Miguel wants this to be a college achievement, or he wants this to be able to get him into a good school, and Robby just doesn't care about that. But I think, like Johnny mentioned, he kind of mentioned to the team, oh, well, you guys, this is the beginning. Like you could be on a Wheaties box, yes. So Robby's not looking to go to college, and he's not looking for that type of future, but maybe he is looking for the type of future of a professional athlete, a professional karate player person. What do you call it?
Martial artist.
Martial artist. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and that their tension is to me was very much like a bell curve.
Yeah.
And like you said, it starts out with they're boys, they're cool now, but they're trying to match up the relationship between the girls. It's almost like, well, we're boys now, let's not have our girlfriends hate each other.
Yeah.
So but it to me, their tension very much went like that because they're cool, and then you had this spike where it's almost like a pissing contest over the captaincy. Where you at first, when Johnny and Daniel say this is how it's going to be, they're not very aggressive towards each other. But like that point you brought, that point you illustrated from that one sequence between the two of them, where Miguel's like, hey, he's not really implying it, but Robby interprets it like he's saying he's not going to go anywhere in life. I need this to get into Stanford. So, like I kind of quote unquote deserve this more. And Robby kind of takes offense to that. And I don't necessarily think that was where Miguel was trying to say, but that's still kind of how Robby felt because, like you said, Robby's kind of the street kid. Not his ceiling doesn't necessarily feel as high, and he kind of still operates like his ceiling's not that high. So to him, like this might be my opus. Let me dominate and kick ass.
Right. It's like they both very much want it. So to me, it's like they're both doing their best. And when they do start to fight, I doesn't Miguel get 2 points? And then Robby's like, oh shit, I gotta come back. And that's when Tory wasn't there yet. So I think he was kind of, they had that promise to each other, like it's gonna be both of us up there. Like we're gonna be up there like a power couple pretty much. And when she wasn't there, he was kind of down and like, okay, what am I doing this for? And then she shows up and he's like, he's got this new, strength to be like, all right, we are going to be that power couple. Like I'm going to fight back and make points. Like this is not over yet. Like this is maybe the best of 3 and he may have 2 points, but I'm not going down yet.
Yeah, and that was very much set up to the audience like a distraction thing, because he did have his promise he made with Tory in his head, and he winds up in a 2-0 deficit match point and then storms back to the point where I was like on the edge of my seat on that match point. I'm like, because that one, I'm sitting there watching like, you watch a show sometimes it seems predictable. Like I was watching that match point and thinking like, I don't know which one of them they're going to give it to right now. I don't know where the story is going to go.
I know the show is good at doing that. I think, in previous seasons, there was moments where I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? You're really literally on the edge of your seat. So, there's something to be said about the excitement they create with the show.
And then the back end of that bell curve, of course, is like you mentioned, Miguel gets up, dusts himself off, and takes the higher road and say, hey, congratulations, man.
Right.
Because and so that kind of makes you feel like, as opposed to Johnny and Daniel, which does not leave you feeling like that, it makes you think like at least the younger versions of themselves is kind of taking a bit more of a higher road.
At least for now. Like,
Right.
What I'm thinking is, what I've dealt with in my personal life is people don't say anything. People don't speak up. They shove everything deep down and they bottle it up. Right. So, I mean, you could ask them straight out, does this bother you? And they'll say no. But it does. So to your point, I mean, Miguel was like, oh, no hard feelings, bro. We're all good. But is it good though? Like, is there going to be that little shred of just a jealousy in him where he acts out because he's just got this, little rage? Like, even though he's like, oh, everything's cool. Like, I mean, it is for now, but we don't know going forward if it's going to stay cool.
Yeah, just wait until the if we have a proverbial good guy wins moment at the end and it's Robby and Sam on the podium, how's that going to make Miguel feel?
Yeah, there you go. So speaking of another couple that is at each other's throats in the past and trying to get along, we have Tory and Sam. So the same thing I see with them is, especially that we saw at the end with the end fight. So, like you said, bell curve with Miguel and Robby, it's kind of the same way with Tory and Sam, even just in this 5 episodes. They start off being like, not interested in being around each other. Then they kind of slowly start to find common ground and become friends. Then they're like pretty good friends. Then Tory's mom passes away. So that kind of throws a wrench into their fight where Tory comes in and she's going to do the fight regardless. And I think Amanda is really the one to recognize. I was kind of questioning whether Amanda had heard anything or whether she knew that Tory's mom was dead somehow.
Her phone rang.
Okay,
Tory's phone rang. At least I assume it's Tory's phone. I don't know why the hospital would be calling Amanda.
Okay, so yeah, I must have missed that, but I was like, okay, Amanda knows, something. She knows exactly what's going on, and she knows it's not going to end well. So, I mean, we kind of thought Tory was going to like seriously injure or kill Sam with the way that she was fighting.
Yeah.
And obviously Daniel and Amanda are like, this is my kid, please don't kill her. Like, obviously they're also worried about Tory and the way that she's acting. So I mean, with that whole thing, and then how we saw it end, I mean, we'll talk about that later, how we saw this 5 episodes come to a close. That was a shock too. So, I mean, Tory and Sam, like, they were okay, but is it ever really okay?
Yeah, I mean, they were concerned about Sam because obviously Tory was hyper aggressive, and she did have that one cheap shot that they wanted Johnny to rule off, and he just, no, that's a warning. It'll be a deduction next time. So yes, they were, but at the same time, I think they also were very concerned for Tory because she's fighting in this highly emotional situation that she's not in the right brain space to be doing because her mother just died. But I think a lot of I could kind of go either way on this because I could also see, as far as it relates to Sam and Tori's interpersonal relationship, I could see this going in a more passive way where Tory right now, or not right now, but Tory at the end of this part of the season, that anger is just a manifestation of her not knowing what to do with her emotions of her mother dying.
Oh yeah.
And she just wants to get this aggression out somehow, because you notice when they stop the fight, Sam has genuine concern for Tory. The LaRussos, Daniel and Amanda, have genuine concern for Tory. Now, Johnny doesn't necessarily, he's got his blinders on, and then he relates it to his own situation.
Right.
He says to Daniel, when my mother died, I wanted to go 3 rounds of the mat with somebody.
Mm.
So, like, everyone is and aside from Johnny, because I think even Miguel and Robby are kind of like, whoa, maybe you shouldn't, like, or at least they kind of have that more passive energy about them.
Mm.
But so, like, I could kind of go either way in their relationship. Like, maybe they are patched up after that, they like almost had it out after the slumber party, uh, or this is just or this is just resurfacing bottled up emotion. So I could go either way.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk a little bit more about that big reveal in the 5th episode, which kind of dictates going forward how things are. But another conflict there was Kreese showing up and getting in Tory's head about Miyagi-Do.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I was, based on what happened in the end, where she seems to be fighting for going to the tournament representing Kreese's team, of Cobra Kai, is she ever going to be okay with Miyagi-Do? Because, Kreese has kind of convinced her that they are not looking out for you. I'm looking out for you. And I think that was before her mom passed away, right? Or was that after her mom passed away that he confronts her in like the parking garage?
No, she had not died yet.
Okay, she had not died yet. So he was even putting it into her head then. And I think that's what caused her. Obviously, she's got a lot of feelings that she's dealing with. So yeah, that did come out in anger. But I think also that was in the back of her head, what he had said to her, like, these people don't care about you. Like, you need to be in this for yourself. Like, you fight for numero uno, you fight for yourself. And so that's why she was kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to fight and I'm going to do this. And then she ended up going to represent his team. So I don't know that's it. Like, maybe her and Sam will be okay because Sam is concerned about her and be like, look, what are you doing fighting for Kreese? She might take her side. Like, she might be very compassionate and be like, why are you doing this? Like, I know your mom died, and like, I can see that happening, in the next part of the season, but we don't know if she's going to be okay with them, and Robby too. I mean, Robby's like her boyfriend, I guess, officially. So how is that going to work, when they have a relationship split between these two teams? And she kind of, isolated herself from him after her mom's death. She didn't even talk to Robby. So I mean, is that over? I don't know.
Kreese is a very manipulative man.
Yeah.
And he, like, he is, I don't even know how well, I guess he probably knew from a previous season, but like to know where to find her, to put that idea in her head that like, hey, I'm still around, I'm still lurking. And so, they have this blow up at Miyagi-Do and she goes off back to find him. So he, I don't know, that guy, like Kreese is like a roller coaster because sometimes you feel like he's manipulated by Master Kim, by his experiences in the war, by Silver. So, but whenever he is in a interpersonal situation with one of the protagonists, it's always Kreese bad, Kreese villain. Like there's never any redeeming qualities to Kreese when he's interacting with a protagonist.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, especially in previous seasons, I mean, we didn't like, yeah, we saw some flashbacks of him with Master Kim, but we didn't really see him a lot this season. And in past seasons, he's a very layered character. Like for me, you do feel bad for him at points in past seasons. You start to sympathize with him. You understand why he is the way he is. You kind of almost have a weird soft spot for him, but then he goes and does something shitty and you're just like, oh, okay, I don't feel that way anymore. But then, so yeah, it is kind of like a roller coaster because you support him and then you feel bad for him and then you're like, oh, he's an a-hole, and then then you feel bad for him again, and then it's endless. So I mean, yeah, it's hard to see whether you start to wonder whether he genuinely does care for Johnny, whether he genuinely does care for Tory, or is this all just retaliation and something like that?
Yeah, I mean, they have that flashback where he's trying to get Johnny out of his head, and in his flashback, he snaps his neck.
Yeah.
So who knows where this guy's going? I don't even know it.
I know, but you understand because he identifies that Johnny is his weakness. He realizes that where he messes up is he put everything on Johnny, and Johnny was his weakness. And I think, yes, he did snap his neck, but he's kind of angry that he has that weakness and that he has that soft spot for Johnny, or that he has that soft spot for anyone at all.
And is it weakness in the sense of he's angry at Johnny for turning his back on his sensei, or is it a sense of failure? Like I pushed this kid to the limit, and he was all Valley champ, and then he lost to Daniel, and then I kept pushing him in the dojo reopening, and then I wound up taking it back from him because he was trying to take the kids in a more positive direction. So like, is it an angsty kind of combatant type of emotion, or is it more of a sense of failure? I was this kid's surrogate father and I failed him.
I kind of think it's a little bit of both. It's kind of heartbreak. Like I feel like I failed him, or it's almost like he's trying to make up for his failure, or trying to make up for what happened with Johnny with Tory, right? He's trying again. He's like, let me do this again. Let me take this girl who's really got something special to this tournament, like make her a star, make her something, like he wanted to do for Johnny.
Yeah. Comeuppance. Can't think of the word I want to use. Comeuppance, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So we talked a lot about the conflict. So on the other side of the conflict, we have all these alliances, right? So between all the alliances or relationships or friendships on the show this season, what are the relationships or alliances that you like the best, or that stand out to you?
The power couples always intrigue me. And especially now that there's no going back and forth. Like obviously Miguel and Sam started out together, but then Miguel was with Tory for a little bit. Sam and Robby kind of had a little bit of a thing, and then it went back to the original matchups. Now, like that's kind of solidified. There's little to no, at least inherent aggression between them. So it almost kind of feels like now are the couples together because they really care about each other? They're falling in love with each other, or are they together because they embrace this karate thing and it's kind of like you make me a better fighter kind of strength? Is it more they're together because of advantages towards this sport?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, to your point, it used to be a love square, right? Not even a love triangle.
Yeah.
kind of a love square. And now it seems like there's no animosity. Although when Sam and Tory were outside the house, I think was that after this or in the middle of the slumber party situation, they were outside fighting and they had some words. And I think one of them makes a comment like, oh, well, because that is my ex-boyfriend after all, or that's my ex. Or I mean, you kind of forget for a second that they're not some happy little foursome. Oh, let's go on double dates to Dave and Buster's or wherever they were. You kind of forget that they had a past of being with, swapping each other's boyfriends. So
yeah, which is weird because Sam and Miguel were together first. So just because Miguel went to Tory, him going back to Sam, like you shouldn't feel like you have territoriality there. Like he was hers first.
Yeah, just a weird situation. But yeah, I did think it was funny how I liked the alliance of Robby and Miguel working together to try to get Sam and Tory to come around. I thought I liked that little bromance, or that little like, oh, well, like conspiring to have two other people become friends. I liked that little scenario.
Yeah. And then one that everyone, like, just people I talk to casually about this show, everyone always loves Amanda.
Yeah,
she's kind of like a fan favorite in the show, and to this point, like we touched on earlier, she's been very standoffish to the whole karate thing. But now in this season, she's getting her hands more involved in it. She's being more supportive of Daniel's ambitions as far as the tournament goes and leading Miyagi-Do and that sort of thing. But she almost gets her hands in it too much this season, because you have, she pushes Daniel to open up Mr. Miyagi's crate and uncover this secret past of his. And then she goes ahead, and when Johnny's staging the fake coup at the car dealership, she tells Johnny about the crate, which it didn't really come out towards the end of this segment of the season, but I kind of felt like, is this your place to tell Johnny about Daniel's issues with the crate? And then of course, her being the catalyst to answering Tory's phone, finding about her mother, and then they stop the fight. So it's almost like Amanda is putting herself too much in the middle of all these situations going on.
Yeah, I mean, even she does have that talk with Johnny towards the end of this part of the season. So I mean, that was kind of nice to see her, give some tips kind of to Johnny about, what he needs to do or what he should do. I liked seeing that relationship, but yeah, to your point, I mean, I guess yeah, maybe it would be better, like I if she stayed out of it. I mean, she is, throughout every season, she's been very supportive. To be honest, I think the reason so many people like her character is because, again, she's supportive. She's easy on the eyes. Like for a woman in her 40s or 50s, she's like gorgeous. Doesn't age, isn't pumped full of fillers, and very naturally beautiful. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's part of it too. Even I'm just like, oh man, like there's no bad angles. She's just pretty. Like
damn, that's a pretty woman.
Like that bitch, she's just too pretty. But yeah, I mean, I could kind of see your point of, maybe she's getting a little too involved, and they don't cut away, but they don't show her telling Johnny about the Miyagi box. They just kind of like, she says something and you're like, okay, she definitely told him.
And she did. And then also, I mean, I guess it was kind of twofold, because one, she kind of backed him off of staging a coup at the car dealership. Like, look, dude, I don't know why you're hot under the collar right now, but chill out. You're not taking over my husband's car dealership. You've been working here a week. But at the same time, it's kind of like there's two sides of every coin. It's like, okay, you did calm down Johnny, but at the same time, you kind of told him your husband's business, which the two of them don't exactly have the bestest relationships at the time.
Yeah, it's they have a complicated relationship. So like, should you be saying anything? Like, let them deal with it, let them work it out. Like, it's difficult, but maybe just stay out of it.
Or let them bury it down like us men are rumored to do.
Yeah, let them duke it out or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you about this because I don't know if this is just me not really remembering, but did we see this character of Devin, this girl that Johnny is kind of taken under his wing? Have we seen her in previous seasons? Like, did she just have like very minimal lines, or like was she really kind of introduced this season?
No, she was in the previous season. Although I didn't recall her being a member of Eagle Fang, I thought she was through Cobra Kai, and there was something where Johnny recognized her skill.
Mhm.
So I don't know whether she started out with Eagle Fang and then there were issues because Johnny's not exactly the most stable personality. Where then she wound up going to Cobra Kai. But she definitely was in the last one, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I thought she probably was, because there's a lot of it's a big ensemble cast, all the kids in the different Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang and Cobra Kai. So it's a lot of kids, and like they've been doing this for a few years. So yeah, I think like I definitely recognized her, and I was like, I think she maybe like, I don't think she really had such a storyline until this season. But that being said, I did like the little storyline of Johnny finding out that the baby him and Carmen are going to have is a girl. And then right after that, we kind of see him taking to it, being a girl dad, where he's really taking Devin under his wing, and he's really supporting her and wanting to see her do well. But even so, it was almost like she was like his little accomplice or right hand woman. Like the part with the slumber party, she was like helping him. She's had the slumber party with Tory and Sam. Like she was a participant in the slumber party. He's like, this is what we're gonna do, So I thought that whole thing was funny, and that was cute. And obviously, she cheated to get a spot in the tournament, so it didn't end up ending very well. But I did like how he supported her and he went to bat for her. I mean, not knowing that she would do that, but
yeah, I'm not totally sure whether it was her or Anthony, because Anthony was the one acting like he did it. And then Kenny's obviously suspicious that he did it because they have their own little side beef. But then obviously the laxative pills are in Devin's bag.
Right.
So
yeah.
I'm still kind of unclear whether it was Devin or Anthony.
I think it was definitely Devin.
And she certainly had the most to gain. Anthony didn't have anything to gain at that point other than just making Kenny look bad.
Right. And especially because Anthony, I wouldn't say innocently, but he was treating it like it really happened, and he had no idea. Like he was the one like commenting, oh, he shit his pants, ha ha ha. Like, like he was the one making fun of him. And you could tell she was, because she felt guilty, she was almost, it looked like she wanted to speak up to be like, don't say that, like that's mean, but she didn't. I mean, she held back, but maybe they would have suspected it was her if she had said something to defend Kenny. That would have looked suspicious or something. But yeah, I mean, it ended kind of terribly, but I did like the relationship of Johnny kind of like, just going up to bat and just standing up for this girl and recognizing, you know what, you have talent and you deserve to be here. Like, you just have some more confidence. Like, don't be so insecure. Like, you belong here, and start acting like it.
I think Johnny wants a pupil because he's kind of lost Miguel as a pupil now that Miguel's kind of grown from his little sheltered self that he used to be, and he's one of the top students. Robby, his father-son relationship with Robby isn't totally probably what he wants it to be. So I
Yeah.
think Johnny kind of secretly wants a pupil underneath him as a sensei. So he's constantly looking for that character.
Yeah, and I kind of liked that sentiment for him this season, you know, the thing with Devin, and also the fact that, yes, I mean, like, we could say it was right or wrong, you know, depending on how you look at it, with Johnny saying Tory should keep fighting. But that being said, like, he was just speaking from his experience. So that's why he was like, look, like, that's what I wanted to do when my mom died. So, like, I could see, like, let's just let her do that. Like, she needs to get this aggression out or whatever it is. So, I mean, like, you could see he's not coming from a bad place and telling her to continue to fight. But yeah, that was nice to see a little bit of a, you know, he's trained Miguel, he's kind of trained Robby a little bit in the past. So it was kind of nice for him to step up for the girls on the team.
And quite frankly, Sam was holding her own in that. So if they let him go, I think they would have been fine.
Yeah, I think Sam would have been okay, but yeah, I mean, I could see how they were worried.
Yeah. Watching your kids fight.
Yeah. So I mean, we did talk quite a bit about Kreese and whether he's really looking out for Tory or not. I mean, we've already talked about that a little bit. The only other little relationship or alliance I liked that was fun was Chosen and Johnny. The whole the realtor scene.
That was one of my favorite ones, just because you get this douchey realtor that's kind of like, oh, well, if you want a house in this area, you got to go through me. And then he winds up having an in on the house anyway, just because the owner is like the biggest Johnny Lawrence fan ever.
I know, that was, well, the funny part to me was Chosen, his only experience is watching Selling Sunset and Property Brothers, and so he goes in there all confident, and he's like, well, my client, you know, this guy, you know, he's like trying to make Johnny look all prestigious, or that he's like a really important person. So that whole setup was really funny.
I hope they're not done with Chosen either, because it kind of felt like they were going away from him towards the end. So I hope they're not done with Chosen.
I don't think they're done with him. I mean, he did go back to Okinawa, but yeah, I don't think we're done with him. I mean, he was in it for a few episodes, and then it just, yeah, it was like, okay, it was kind of abrupt all of a sudden. But I know that, you know, he kind of wore out his welcome with Amanda and Daniel in their house. I think they were getting real sick of him. They were like, please get the hell out.
He ate all our desserts.
Yeah. He ate all the cannoli.
That's what it was the cannoli.
They were mini cannoli. He said they were mini.
Mini. Yes, I know what mini is.
She said, you ate how many cannoli? And he said, oh, they were mini. That's how he justified it. So, you know, we did kind of mention a couple things about not necessarily the pacing, but sort of what was included in these 5 episodes. But we didn't really talk about what wasn't included in these episodes. So, I mean, was there anything that you didn't like in these 5 episodes? Like, were you like, why are they including this? Like, I don't care about that. Or was there anything that you wish you saw or more of, or that they went, you know, dove deeper into with these first 5 episodes that just was non-existent?
I'm a little creeped out that they give the impression that Kim Dae-yoon and Kreese had a past relationship. And when they met each other, she's this little girl, and him and Silver are like, you know, young grown men, like young men. So it's like, that feels sketchy to me.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little weird. I mean, we don't know for sure if they did have like a relationship, but that being said, she was probably what, like 7?
Yeah, I was thinking like 8 tops, 8, 9
maybe
tops.
7 or 8. He was well, this was when he was in the military, so was he like 20 years old, or was he, I
I
don't
think
know.
it was post-war, so he had to have been in his early to mid-20s.
Okay, so I mean, so we can probably assume that there's maybe a 15-year age difference. Again, when you're 8 years old and in your early 20s, it's kind of gross. But I mean, is it possible that maybe they kind of
Waited.
reconnected? Like, I mean, maybe like now he's what, 70, 80? I don't know. How old
Yeah,
is he? And then
probably. Yeah, in
she's
his
like in
70s.
her, she's like in her 50s. Like, I don't know. Like, I guess that would be like a reasonable, it does sound like a problematic age difference, like when they first met, obviously.
When they're both adults, it feels so much more acceptable as opposed to when they
Yeah.
first met.
Yeah. And did they actually, I mean, like, it does seem like they have a fighting relationship. Like, do
Mhm.
we know if they had a romance necessarily?
We
Like, was there
don't, and
any?
we don't. Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, maybe also he sort of looked at her like a pupil, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah. These are my my sparring partner kind of deal.
yeah, maybe it could be a relationship kind of like that. But I mean, see, that's kind of where I'm a little bit like, with the whole Master Kim storyline. Like, I mean, obviously, it makes sense for Kreese to. Did he break out of jail? Kreese?
Yeah. He snuck out.
Yeah,
I
Kreese.
forgot exactly how, but he got out and he disguised himself as a doctor, which they touched on a little bit in the recap. He changed his outfit and just kind of like snuck out the back door.
Yeah, so then when he sneaks out and he meets up with Kim Dae-eun, is that her name?
I think so. That's what I heard. And then they never actually
So
said it again.
yeah, when and there I remember there's a scene where, there's a bunch of people fighting like in the woods in the middle of nowhere, and she's like, yeah, I came to the America to train, and all this stuff. And so she's kind of got the team on lock, ready to train him up for Kreese now that he's out. So
Mhm.
um I mean, I did like seeing the backstory of that, like she seems to be like the co-leader of the team, sort of. So, like the new Cobra Kai, I guess.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, yes, we should know who she is, but I don't know. Like, the background with Master Kim was like semi interesting, but I was like, do we really need to see as much of this? Like, I kind of wish we just saw more of Kreese and like what is he up to? Like, it was all kind of just things that weren't on camera, right? Like,
Right.
we just saw him talking with Tory in the parking garage. We saw him, having this like a daydream sort of realizing Johnny is his weakness and strangling him. And so it's just like I wish we saw more of Kreese, of who he is in that moment since breaking out of jail. Where is he at, mentally? Like,
Know
his,
some backstory instead of just seeing him as a puppet master.
right, like can't we see more interactions with Kim Dae-eun, of like, of him talking about how he's going to manipulate Tory, or you know what I mean? Like, just wish we saw the gears in his head turning a little bit more with all this exposition, and um just more than just like a space filler to go back to these flashbacks or to these, I don't know, like I just didn't think there was a lot of value in it. Like,
That being said, I think he probably is the type of person that keeps those motivations close to the chest. So
true.
I could see him as like, the Tory thing is my deal. I'm not going to tell Kim about this.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's the kind of person that does evil just, in his own mind, doesn't really want to
Yes.
involve anyone else. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I just wish we saw a little bit more of him, like just to put, because I mean, maybe that's what they were doing on purpose, because then when we ended with, Tory very obviously fighting on his side, on his team, it was kind of a shock, right? Because like he had like one interaction with her and all of a sudden she's convinced to go to his team. Like,
Yeah. When
like,
she previously said she was done with him.
right. Like, shouldn't it have taken like a little more convincing and poking and prodding? Like, I just felt it was kind of sudden because we didn't see as much of the back and forth, like, listen, I told you to leave me alone, you know, like, just more of that. Like, it just took one time and then it was like, okay, I'm on your team, I guess. Like,
yeah. one time in a traumatic moment.
yeah. Yeah.
The other things for me, because most of the things that I want resolution on are things that are going to be resolved.
Right.
But just like as far as the other kids are concerned, I do feel bad for Kenny. Because I would have thought that maybe they would have said, okay, well, we're down a spot now because Tory just poof disappeared. Kenny, Hawk go at it. Winner gets the last spot, and they just kind of gave it to Hawk. And then speaking of him, there's this tension now left between Hawk and Dimitri. Hawk and Dimitri.
Yeah.
That they're the best of friends. And now one, they hate each other because of this MIT situation, but they also hate each other because Dimitri kind of took a cheap shot at Hawk to get the flag and said, see you later, I'm going to the tournament.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it seems that they've been friends since they were little kids, right? Because they make some comment about, oh, you've wanted to go to MIT since we were in elementary school or whatever the comment was. So it's like, really, like, this is gonna be, their friendship is gonna be destroyed over something like this. Like, that's kind of sad, you know, for people who have been friends for that long. I mean, it's like the opposite of Johnny and Daniel, who have like never been legit friends, but it's like a shame to see a real friendship go down.
Yeah. And those two didn't even fight each other.
I know. Yeah, they're the best of friends. Yeah. I mean, we'll talk a bit about what our kind of predictions are for part 2, but yeah, I have a prediction about Kenny that I'm not sure how it's going to come to fruition, but I feel like it might happen. I'm just not sure how. The only other thing that I kind of wish there was more of this season, or this part of in these five episodes, was the
so hard to say.
I know, it's just like a little tidbit. Obviously there was a lot of conflict between Johnny and Daniel as they struggle for control. Like, yes, we saw that. But in previous seasons, they were always my favorite, like, unlikely duo. So I wish we saw a little bit more of the happy times and that the power struggle came a little bit later, you know, in those, like, maybe like episode 4 and 5, but like all we got pretty much was like the gender reveal explosion thing, which was like a funny moment between them. They're like, is this, oh my God, did this come from Silver? Or like, you know, and they
I was going to say that wasn't enough for you, seeing Daniel covered in pink powder.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a funny little moment between the two of them, but that was kind of it as far as funny little moments go. It was all of a sudden they were like, you know, button heads. It just, you know, it was a little smidge of their unlikely duo funniness, but then it's just, that's it, it subsided.
And the dealership, I like that too, when he was saying, well, maybe you should go out and get a 9 to 5, and the next day he comes in suit and tie with a briefcase, like, all right, I'm ready to start. I'm like, I didn't offer you a job.
Oh yeah, that was funny when he's like, oh, so he like says, he just assumed that like he didn't really ask him. He just assumed like, oh, he wants me to work there.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was funny when Daniel's like, well, you don't even know what you're doing. And then it's like, we sold a car. Like,
yeah. It's like, well, okay, I guess I'll hire him.
guess he's good at it. But that was funny, but it's just, I wish we saw more of that. And obviously they're dragging this out in 3 parts. So hopefully they get over this control where, I mean, at the end, it didn't leave them in a good place at all. So I don't know if we're going to see the happy, unlikely duo very soon.
Yeah, I have my doubts.
Yeah. Well, so now that we've kind of dragged it down with some things that we didn't like, what were the opposite of that, your absolute favorite moments of the season, where there are funny moments or, lines or just notable moments that you liked the best. For me, I mean, it was kind of funny to me that there were so many like impromptu public fights. Like that was just funny to me. And like there was always tons of montages, right? Tons of fight montages in general. What were some of your favorite moments?
So the quote, I'll leave it to you because you wrote it down. That was my funniest quote of the show for sure, thus far anyway. But other than the one-liners, I found this to be a pretty overall serious portion of the season. Didn't have too much of a comedic feel.
No.
However, I did get it going back to the douchey real estate agent. I did get a kick out of him looking outside. He sees Johnny's wooden panel minivan with Eagle Fang painted on the side of it. It's like, yeah, dude, this isn't your town. Get out of my open house. So I did get a kick out of that. And then of course the slumber night, that was the funny moment of this portion of the season.
The slumber party was the absolute highlight. And I think, there were a lot of Johnny one-liners like peppered throughout the 5 episodes, but that was like the most hilarious part to me. Just the idea that he had, like, he said that, didn't he reference his high school girlfriend or Allie? Was that the girl in high school?
It was Allie. Yeah.
I think he said something about like, oh, well, Allie told me that at sleepovers, this drama happened. So that's why he was like hoping to make Sam and Tory hate each other
again.
So that was his brilliant idea. Like, this is just, it's funny because this is a guy that has like just no idea. Like he has these ideas, but he doesn't know what he's doing. So it's just hilarious. Like he's trying to dredge up conflict. And I was just dying when they first get there. He's like, well, now that you two are getting along, we can have a girls' night. And they're like, with you? And he's like, hell yeah, I'm a girl dad now. Brought cookies and tampons and everything. Like, this is what this, middle-aged man thinks that sleepovers are all about. So it was just hilarious. Like the part with the Ouija board, just him moving it. Oh my God.
And then they stop it before it spells bitch. Like, what? It could have said bitchin'.
Yeah, that was the absolute highlight for me. Like that, just so many funny lines in that part, and just the visuals. Again, you had the montage of them putting the cucumbers over their eyes with the face masks, and they're all in a line. And then, you have 3 teenage girls, then you have this random middle-aged guy like hanging out at a sleepover.
Yeah, what was he doing? He was like taking the cukes off of Tory's eyes or whatever he was doing.
Oh, and then he was standing there like taking a bite of a cucumber.
Yeah. Well, while they're doing that, I might as well have a snack.
Like, just so funny, like just kind of overseeing the madness, being like, oh, like let's try to see what we can cook up between them,
Yeah, well, let me call Sam from Robby's phone, and let me text Tory from Miguel's phone.
So good.
How'd you get those? Oh, I stole their phones.
So funny. So now we come to the final thoughts topic. So how do you think things are going to go in part 2 of season 6?
Well, I'm concerned how much gets resolved in this second portion around Thanksgiving, because in theory, let's say it's 4 or 5 episodes again, right? You could go through the whole tournament, 4 or 5 episodes, and have a lot of extra time where to just kind of kill, but still have everything tied up with a neat little bow. And then I kind of worried, well, what's going to happen in that last part of the season, that whatever's going to air in 2025. Like, you could do this whole tournament story arc in this next batch of episodes, and what's the point for us to watch the end of it? Like, are we going to be that hard up to find out whether or not Daniel continues the dojo or let Johnny take over, or if Johnny just sticks to his word and says, like, I'm done with you after this, I'm walking away. Like what's left to resolve after this tournament?
Right. And I mean, in the 5th episode, we see them arrive at the tournament. So to your point, it's like, how are we going to string out 4 or 5 episodes of them being at the tournament and leave it on a cliffhanger where they're like, oh, we don't know who won the tournament, like that would be kind of torture if they did that in part 2. I would assume that the tournament would be covered in its entirety in part 2, but I don't know.
And then like cut it off right at the title bout, like right when Sam and Tory are about to fight again. So we've got like a chunk of 5 episodes each where we still can't see these 2 chicks go at it again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the pacing is going to be like, but I mean, we have a handful of things that we don't really know how they're going to be resolved. We just know that they're probably going to be picked up in the second part, right? So, I mean, it's the ongoing mystery of who Miyagi really is. We already know he's not really the honorable, gentle guy that Daniel thinks he is. Like, we've already have some indications that he's not, but we don't know the full extent of it probably. So that's probably going to keep going, right?
And you don't know the story behind that. You don't know why he did that. Maybe the person he stole from was a bad person.
Right. Then maybe there's a good reason for that. We really have no explanation. So the Miyagi thing, there's a loose end, right? So how are Robby, Sam, and the entire Miyagi-Do team going to deal with the betrayal of Tory competing as Kreese's protege, right? So
yeah, and that's a big thing for me because Robby and Tory made that promise that they're going to stand on the podium together.
Yes.
And you would think they still want that to be the case because theoretically they're together now, they love each other, whatever the case may be. So is that going to happen anyway? And they're going to stay on the podium, but in opposite geese. And now is that going to cause strife because now Cobra Kai doesn't die? Now Kreese's ego is still inflated. And now you've got, or are you going to have the protagonist arc where Miyagi-Do's the good guy? Maybe it's Sam and Robby on the top and Cobra Kai dies and Tory eats crow. But Robby and Sam, now does that cause a rift between Sam and Miguel? And on top of that, a rift between Robby and Miguel.
Right. Do they automatically see those X's up on that podium and they're like, they see them like talking and laughing and they're like, oh, hell no, not on my watch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, that'll be interesting to see how that pans out. And then, I mean, we have mention of Silver a few times in this part 1, but we haven't seen him. Are we going to see him again or not? Is that the end of him?
I would assume no, and honestly, I wouldn't mind because I feel like Silver was almost brought back as an extension because they had kind of worn out the Kreese storyline at the moment. So they kind of like, okay, well, let's bring in Terry Silver, and then they realize that the Terry Silver arc's maybe not as captivating to the viewer as the Kreese story arc is.
I think it's just that Silver is just like pure evil, right? There's literally no redeeming qualities.
No.
I think that people recognize, that Kreese does kind of have redeeming qualities. So that's why they're interested in him, because they're wondering whether he's going to be good or whether he's going to be bad. And it's just that constant wondering that keeps people on the edge of their seat. So,
and Daniel sells him like that. Daniel has always sold Silver as it's the epitome of evil in this.
Yes, and he's a bad man. So about Kreese, so we have this loose end. So now that he's got Tory on his team, like, what else is he going to do to get even? Is he going to play dirty in this tournament?
Oh, I would fully expect that. Now, I don't think he could pay people off like he did the last time. I don't think he could do that, but I'm sure he's telling whether it's Tory or whether it's this kid Quan who's got this bad apple kind of streak in him. telling
Mm.
him to like, pull out every trick in the book. And is that going to be a situation where he takes a cheap shot at Robby, at Miguel, either one of them really, or even Hawk for that matter?
Yeah, and just like there's always the potential of someone playing dirty and then one of the fighters getting like seriously injured, paralyzed or just really messed up from a fight if someone decides that they're not going to like Miyagi-Do, they use like honorable tactics, like they're kind of known as like the gentle karate
The gentle
people.
karates.
But obviously Cobra Kai is known to be the cutthroat. So are they going to play dirty and seriously injure someone like beyond repair and ruin their life? Perhaps.
Yeah, but I mean, we also kind of already saw that. Like Miguel fell off the stairs,
Right.
messed himself up. Sam messed up her arm. So we have seen gruesome injuries before that the kids recovered from, and the Miguel one is a little unbelievable. That being said, but
yeah,
you're right. I mean, and we are at the end now, so it would obviously carry more weight if somebody got injured now.
the stakes are higher.
Yeah.
Yeah, at a tournament level, the stakes are higher. So yeah, we have that, weighing on us. And then to your point with Kenny, so this is my prediction. So Devin, pretty sure it's Devin, cheated to get into the tournament, right? So I don't know how, but that is going to rear its ugly head somehow, because there might be a situation where she's competing. What if she gets seriously hurt because she's not really as good as they think she is or that they expect her to be? So it could be that she gets she just got way too deep into this and she gets seriously injured with the person she competes against. I mean, what if she competes against Tory? Tory would beat the crap out of her. Or
yeah, probably.
So I could see that happening. And on the same note, I could see that obviously she's got a lot of guilt because of what she did to get there. So maybe that's gonna get in her head and mess with her. The fact that like I'm not supposed to be here, like I don't deserve to be here.
And it maybe you could have a situation where maybe she comes out hot like a cannon, gets them up to a certain point, and then falters because of her skill set. Her skill set is not as high as the other girls, and that costs the dojo in the long run.
Right. So something is going to happen with that. Like I don't think that like one of the boys is going to get injured and then they decide, oh, Kenny should be there, so let's send like I don't know that Kenny's going to get justice. #justice for Kenny. But
first class ticket from Pasadena to Barcelona. You don't quite get there overnight.
Oh my God. When I tell you that whole scene, like when his stomach was gurgling, I was like, no, they're not going to do that to him. And when it happened and I heard it and I was like, no, I was like, that's so terrible. Like for someone to deal with that, like in public, like kids can be so cruel in general. Like I was like, no.
Yeah.
That's so awful. Don't do that to Kenny, but they did it.
It's a good thing he can kick anyone's ass that he wants to, because he definitely would get bullied after that.
I know. So I don't think there's going to be justice for Kenny necessarily, but Devin is definitely going to have to deal with the repercussions. We just don't know what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you had something written about Daniel and Johnny, which they're like kind of, it leaves them barely on speaking terms. It's like we're just going to get through this tournament and then we are done.
Yeah. And
right?
I feel like I'm really convinced that that's just never going to be patched. Like I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it'll be a nice little happy ending there, but like I just feel like these two are never going to patch up their animosity from 4 years ago. Or at least Johnny's animosity. Daniel doesn't have anything to be animos about. But I'm just in a situation where like if they just split and walked away and that was the end of it, I wouldn't feel unfulfilled as a viewer by that, because it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, you know, they've tried by that point. Like maybe the damage is done. Maybe it's just they have two different ideas of how they want to run a dojo. So maybe it's just better if they each have their own. You know, then we go back to like the kids being split over like, oh, I want to take, you know, classes. I want to train at this dojo. No, I want to train at this one. You know, splitting up friendships again. But it's like, I feel like they wouldn't do that again. They're going to do something different. So maybe this is after the tournament, depending on how it goes, they part ways. Maybe that's how it ends.
Yeah, which would be sad, because I would have liked to see like, okay, Johnny, the cooler Johnny is a thing now, and he takes over Miyagi-Do. Daniel walks away from it, but right now I'm not feeling that that's going to happen. And like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't.
Yeah. So on that note, not to bum everyone out, but we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. Wah, wah. We'll see how that works itself out with Johnny and Daniel. And obviously come November, they actually pushed the date up 2 weeks, I heard. Yeah. So I think
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I believe it's November 15th or 13th or something like that. Don't quote me on the date, but it's mid-November now. So obviously we will do our due diligence and cover that for you for part 2. So until then, if you enjoy listening to our show, we would appreciate it so much if you gave us 5 stars and left us some love there. Also, make sure you follow along with us on Instagram and TikTok. For me, it's Binge the Ginge with dots between the words on Instagram, no dots on TikTok. He is Nutmeg2 Palmetto, the number 2, and Palmetto like the disgusting bug that I hate. So give us both follows on social, and then stay tuned to the show on all of our platforms. For video, we have YouTube and Rumble. For audio, we have Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. For episode 21, when we're finally legal to drink, we're exploring the never-ending power struggle of House of the Dragon, which is season 2 on Max. Until the next real review, Red and Red are signing out. Bye.
In less than an hour, aircraft from here will join others from around the world. And you will be launching the largest aerial battle in the history of mankind.
Hey guys, you ready to let the dogs out?
What? Do what?
I'd like to be pimps from Oakland or cowboys from Arizona, but it's not Halloween.
Let the dogs out, you know, like, who let the dogs out?
Who brought this guy along?
Slow ahead. I can go slow ahead. Come on down and chump some of this shit.
Grow up, Peter Pan. Count Chocula.
X never, ever marks the spot.
One more thing. Do me a favor. Don't go chasing waterfalls.
You did. You crazy son of a bitch, you did.
Mankind, that word should have new meaning for all of us today. We can't be consumed by our petty differences anymore.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
No. Try not. Do. Or do not. There is no try.
All right. Then you do us proud. Because I don't want no scrubs.
Don't act so surprised, Your Highness. You weren't on any mercy mission.
Not from tyranny, oppression, or persecution, but from annihilation. We're fighting for our right to live.
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
I'll take care, all right? None but love. None but love.
10. X marks the spot.
Have any clue what's about to happen to him?
Oh, not a chance in hell. Good night.
Kreese! Fire, you son of a...
Hey,
Ain't too proud to beg.
Come on!
What?
It's not funny anymore.
I don't know what you're
talking about? I'm not trying to.
references.
Still, nothing. I swear to you.
But as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.